every day and talking through who can do what, and piecing it together and finding a way. So yeah, there is a lot of that. That's just as important, if not one of the more important parts of what we do. And normally we don't have to do it to this extent. Normally it doesn't take most of the day and most of everybody's energy.
Oh, hi guys. I'm back.
Oh, hey.
Thanks for welcoming me
Hey, it's
back
Phil
to the show.
Mackey from
Hey,
Score North.
Hey, everybody. It's Phil Mackey here. Hey, let's talk about...
846.
We sure missed you.
I didn't miss you guys. I didn't miss you
says
guys
hi.
at all, but I missed Federated. Federated Insurance is here to help us
roll.
unpack what's happening with the Minnesota Twins right now. Federated provides insurance, not for your injured roster and not for your underperforming quote-unquote star players in their prime, but they can help your business with risk management tools, protection, peace of mind. Find a full list of industries Federated protects at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. All right, Judd. Rocco Baldelli lamenting the long list of injuries the Twins have right now. I saw a couple different beat writers. This is definitely a theme right now. The Twins are trying to push this a little bit to say, I know this has been a bad season, but look at all the injuries. What percentage of the pie chart of blame would you give injuries for the Twins?
So I'm not going to dismiss it because they definitely have had a lot of guys out, and it's been a problem. And when Buxton is out, unfortunately, it's not surprising, but it definitely impedes you. That being said, one of my starting points of the problem with this team is in the bullpen, where last time I checked, until Thielbar left the game last night, and it's Caleb Thielbar who left with a groin injury. They've, Colome, healthy, just stinks.
Shoemaker's been healthy.
Robles.
Hap's been healthy.
High wire act. And, he can strike guys out, but he also can cause you heart palpitations. So if I was to do a pie chart of blame, I would say just off the top of my head that I would give, 10% or so. But I think that there's so much blame to go around from the bottom on up to the very top chair for how this team was constructed and the swings and misses that we're clearly seeing, that I would be hard-pressed to pass along the Twins PR spin, which I'm sure is, you can't lose this guy, the old Sid line. You can't lose Buxton, and you can't lose Kepler, and you can't lose, you've got other problems too. So I would seriously say about 10%, because I think to go there is a poor excuse from which you're not learning what you should from what has been so far a disaster 2021.
Yeah, I mean, teams suffer injuries. It's certainly a factor. Obviously, it's a factor. Byron Buxton being out is a huge loss because he was the best player in baseball when he went down. So if they were just fully healthy, let me see, what's their record? 22-33. I mean, I'm just spitballing this, but they wouldn't be above 500 if they were fully healthy. Look at the guys who've been. And by the way, there's no such thing as a baseball player. Well, there are some, but you're not just fully healthy all the time, right? You're gonna, we heard about this Michael Pineda, some forearm soreness. Well, guys, he's a pitcher. You're gonna throw 200 innings in a year. Arms get sore. There's a difference. Pitchers will tell you there's a difference between being hurt or uncomfortable and being injured, right? Mm-hmm. And so some of the stuff is guy fouled the ball off his foot and now he has a sore foot or has a mild strain of some kind. Baseball teams for 100+ years have been riddled with players up and down the lineup that are just playing through things, right? Joe Mauer played through things his entire career. Back.
Oh no, he was
knees,
soft.
Right?
He was so soft.
He was hitting softball bombs yesterday, pulling the ball. He come on, Joe, you could have done this for us.
So I want to separate injuries from guys who've been a little bit nicked up, maybe, right? And let's kind of go through it, right? Jorge Polanco has been healthy enough. He's underperforming. Josh Donaldson, it sounded pretty bad initially. Guy popped his hamstring the second pitch of the season or whatever it was, right? But he's played 43 games, 177 plate appearances, underperforming. Max Kepler's been a little bit injured, Buxton, so I'll definitely give you some of those. Miguel Sano missed a little time, but for the most part, he's fine. He's played 40 games. Mm-hmm. He's terrible. Yeah. He's been terrible, right? So on the pitching side, you nailed it. I mean, really, it's Colomé, disaster, healthy. Shoemaker, Hap, healthy, disaster. Maeda, I don't know, man. Did they, do you get a little soreness after you start the season after 9 starts with a 5 ERA, or did the soreness lead to a 5 ERA? We don't really know. So I'd say 20%. I'll give it more than you. I'll say 20% injuries, but let's not use injuries as look. No, there's a lot of other things happening here that are causing the Twins to be 11 games below 500. So I'm not just going to fall for the look how hurt they are now excuse.
Which is a great one. Man games missed, right? That's the old term that they used in hockey for years. Man games, we've missed. Look at all the man games. I would equate the Twins to this. If the Twins were a car, if the Twins were a car that you took into the shop and you're like, this car something's wrong. It's not running right. It's not. And they lifted up the hood of the Twins car. I think among the first things they would identify is the bullpen gear. The bullpen gear is a mess here. And the reality is the bullpen is a gross misjudgment by people that make the decisions on who is in that bullpen far more than, but Kepler's hurt too. And yes, that's a problem. But we've talked on this show, Phil, going back to the old show, we've talked how many times, and I think I would trace it back to when Kansas City got good for a brief time period there, to the importance of arms in the bullpen. That this is you don't put, this guy's okay, he used to start, now he's going to be in my bullpen. The Royals sort of paved the way, I think, for showing you essentially need 3 arms of guys that can bring it. I mean, throw absolute gas and are good. And this club falls short completely. Like, Taylor Rogers has rebounded a little bit, but he's still not great. Colomé how he has not been DFA'd is beyond me. Robles will look good against 1 batter and then terrible against 2. So the misjudgment of this bullpen and the hubris that the Twins have, and it is hubris of, hey, this guy struggled with the Angels, but we see something that they didn't, right? It hasn't worked. It simply has not worked. And your bullpen right now is an old school 1990s, hey, let's slap this guy out there. And it has gone woefully wrong.
Yeah. So the other thing, too, I don't know, sometimes we've talked about this before on the show where on our show and at Score North, I think there's a perception that we're negative or that we're just being antagonistic, right? I mean, honest to God's truth, I don't know if we've just gone that soft in this market. You and I have opinions. Declan has opinions, and sometimes we want these teams to win championships. And so I'm not gonna sit here after an 0-18 playoff run in which they're now underperforming again and coddle them. They don't deserve to be coddled. They don't deserve to have excuses thrown on them, even if there are some justifiable injury concerns. Yes. Does that mean that they would have been a 40-win team right now, just steamrolling through the American League if they were fully healthy? No, there's a bunch of dudes underperforming, and I will admit, my annoyance with the Twins when they're down, 5 runs again to the Orioles last night is 100 times more heightened because they are 0-18 since 2004 in the playoffs. So just like when I fire off tweets, when when my blood pressure is boiling on this show, all of it is because, in large part, they haven't won a playoff game in 18 tries, which is a North American sports futility record, okay? And so whenever I see people, media fans, trying to, you throw 2020 out because it was a COVID year, or look at the injuries over here, or you're being too hard on Miguel Sano. No! You guys aren't being hard enough on a franchise that hasn't won a playoff game in 18 tries in a coin flip sport. And so, you and I were getting some pushback last night, and I saw Declan jumped into one of the Twitter phrase too that
I had you.
Why are you guys are being overly critical of Miguel Sano, who, by the way, is hitting 157 with a 652 OPS in his prime right now, and he was garbage last year too, and he makes $10 million, and he was supposed to be one of the center points of this franchise, and he's having just an atrocious season except for a one good game and a 3 home run game and a 10-day hot stretch, right? A, we're being too hard on Sano, and B, there are a bunch of other problems that we need to devote more attention to. So A, are we being too hard on Miguel Sano? And B, who are 3 non-Miguel Sano players that deserve the criticism to be spread around more? Judd.
Donaldson, Kepler, Polanco. Can I continue? Shoemaker, Happ.
I don't criticize Shoemaker. It's the scout that signed you theory with Shoemaker. But
it is, but then he does his Zoom post-game call and says it's just bad luck. I mean,
got Dubnik disease.
Sorry, Sandy Koufax. Didn't mean to imply that you had a horse bleep game. Going through the list is easy. Are we too hard on Sano? All right, I'm going to try and give, again, I don't want to be condescending, Judd, but I'm going to come off that way. But I'm going to try and give a tutorial on the perfect parallel of why we are not too hard on Sano and why the weird defense of him from some in this town is actually now bizarre.
Take the glasses off.
Okay.
Take the glasses off.
Yeah. Okay, kids. Sports Dad talking to you.
Yes.
But I'm serious. Like, if you defend Miguel, I'm going to tell you exactly why, and I would like you to process this fully. So don't lash back. Don't get mad. Take a deep breath and listen. The perfect parallel to draw here is Byron Buxton, okay? Byron Buxton, unfortunately for all of us as baseball fans, can't stay healthy. He can't. I don't know why. I don't know if it's something about how his body is constructed by the good Lord or a higher power. I don't know why, but he can't. But you know what we don't do? And you know what they would do in some towns? Rip him up and down. He would get ripped for not staying healthy. He would. If this were Boston, they would be saying, why can't he do that? Byron Buxton, you suck. They would, and we don't do that.
Buxton, you drink wine coolers.
And wine coolers, bunch of another bottles and James.
Why in Boston, I like to call him.
So.
Boston.
That's a good one. So. The point being is we don't rip him because he's a magnificent talent who's turned himself into a really good player and has worked extremely hard and appears to be beset by really bad luck. Sometimes he gets ripped. But we're a logical show. We're a show that parcels out blame where it belongs. And if you are unfortunate enough that you get hurt a lot, yeah, we'll talk about you. But Buxton and Mauer now have become similar in the fact that Joe got hurt a lot. Now, it was weird with him because he got ripped by the public. Still don't know why. But anyway, Miguel Sano is a self-made bust. That's why we're mad. He is contributing every day. And the more that people out there put out the analytics trying to show, oh, you don't understand, the underlying statistics say Miguel Sano is Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, and Jimmy Fox, okay? What you're doing is you're enabling him to be a bust. And Miguel Sano can't adjust. Miguel Sano has to go to Nelson Cruz's house, which means that he does care. But he has to go to Nelson Cruz's garage before a game to get a tutorial on what he's doing wrong. And eventually, because this is the big leagues team, adjust to what he did, and then he's lost again. So, no, we are not too hard on Sano. And I don't understand the people out there defending him and constantly pounding the drum about how great he is are enabling the failure. Why would you do that? Why are you doing that? What is your point? You are, and basically what you're saying is Miguel Sano is more important than the team. And if you're a Twins fan, that really confuses me. So again, from Sports Dad to you, the difference is Miguel Sano every day is going about being a bust through, unfortunately, a lot of things he's doing wrong. And he deserves to be criticized for that. Just like he deserves to be, at times, I think, praised for the fact that he is not nearly as lousy a first baseman as I thought he was going to be. But the reality right now is Miguel Sano is a better defensive player than an offensive player. And that is a frightening thing to say.
I got a few social media messages like this yesterday because I've tweeted out a lot about Miguel Sano's bad numbers this year and since 2018. And somebody went back and said, he went and searched and said, Mackey tweets about Max Kepler in 2021. 2, Mackey tweets about Miguel Sano in 2021, 26. Is there something else that might be different about Miguel Sano, insinuating is Mackey and our people ripping Miguel Sano more because he's non-white? That's what he means with this tweet. Which is, I mean, that's absurd, for one. But 2, on Kepler, of course he deserves criticism. Of course he does. But the criticism of Miguel Sano isn't just for his bad performance in the first 3 weeks of this year. It's essentially a prime of his career achievement award. Since the beginning of 2018, Max Kepler has racked up 9 wins above replacement. Miguel Sano, 3. 3 wins above a replacement level player since the beginning of 2018. And that includes an amazing 2019 4-month run in which he was helping to carry the Twins offense, which nobody disputes, by the way. He goes through stretches, and that was the longest stretch of his career, by the way, where he can carry this offense. But for the most part, he was the number 4 prospect in the world 5 years ago, according to MLB.com. So part of this is expectations. Kepler was expected to be a really good player. And I think he cracked like the top 40 one time, like Baseball America. Like he was like the 30th or 40th best prospect in Baseball America. But he wasn't talked about from age 18. And by talked about, I don't mean fans and media as much. I mean scouting services, Baseball America, MLB.com's pipeline, the Jonathan Mayos, like the smart people that are evaluating these players on a regular basis. That Miguel Sano can be a generational talent for the Twins and for Major League Baseball. Whether that was fair or not, obviously we can debate that. But some of the criticism, if not most of it, is run through that prism, right? Well, why don't you criticize Jake Cave? He's garbage. Because he's a 4th outfielder. He was never supposed to be a centerpiece of the franchise, right? Why don't you criticize Polanco? Well, okay, yeah. I mean, he deserves criticism too. But Polanco was never touted as centerpiece of the franchise by the team, by scouting services, etc. And so when there's that big of a gap between reality and expectations, and you make $10+ million, listen. When Sano signed the contract, Doogie reminded me of this on Twitter this morning. When he signed the contract, he talked about wanting to play here the rest of his career and what he did in 2019. He wants to carry that over and have it be the norm. He was excited to have turned a new corner in his career, and here we sit. And so why was Joe Mauer open season for basically 10 years, half of which he was a batting champion, right, who just didn't hit enough home runs? And why is Miguel Sano off limits, right? And does that mean that we also shouldn't be criticizing other players? Sure, but I'm not going to tee off on Matt Shoemaker, who is just a throwaway bottom of the rotation starter. What about Josh Donaldson? Well, Josh Donaldson, you must be a racist. You're criticizing Miguel Sano and not Josh Donaldson. Okay, Donaldson definitely with injuries and performance has not lived up to that contract 100%. But again, Josh Donaldson, when he was in his prime, was an American League most valuable player. He maxed out the peak of his career as one of the best players in baseball for like 4 or 5 years. The Twins signed him, and it was risky when he was old. And so, yeah, does Josh Donaldson probably deserve more criticism on this show? Yes, I will say yes. He definitely does. But he's still, Josh Donaldson still is producing a 117 OPS plus, which is above average for this season. Well, it's above average for any season when you have a 117 OPS plus. But, his OPS plus is above average. Miguel Sano's is well below average. So, yeah, Donaldson's struggling, but he maxed out the peak of his career. He's adjusting now that he went through a slump, and he's still pretty darn good defensively at a pretty premium position, third base. He deserves some criticism, but he hasn't been the disaster that Miguel Sano has been. So I don't know. End of my rant here. But it just kind of, I guess it frustrates me. It frustrates me that we settle for excuses and good, not great for a team that has been now 17 years without a postseason game victory, not a series victory, a win in a postseason game. It drives me nuts. And
I feel, and this is the worst part about my Sano feeling now. I feel empathy for him. Him at the plate is hard to watch. It is such a colossal disaster for the most part. And yes, I know if he hits a ball, it can go a long way potentially. But when you see him flailing now and slamming his helmet down in the frustration, that's not fun. I feel bad for him. But my take is not to rip him now. My take is say he's damn near unplayable. There are certain guys, look, Donaldson to me, yes, the contract looks bad now, and he's underachieving, in my opinion, by a lot. But that being said, he's not unplayable. Miguel Sano is unplayable. Alex Colomé should be DFA'd. He should not be. And the problem with Miguel is, I don't know what you do now. Do you spot him in there? Do you platoon him? Because his splits are sort of weird. It's not like he's got one clear defined, he can hit southpaws or something. So I don't know what you do, but the fact is, if anybody, Sano fan or not, doesn't think that the Twins, one, aren't concerned, and two, trying to find a way to solve this, you're absolutely crazy. Now, externally, they're not going to talk about that, and I get that. But internally, this has to be a major discussion point now. Because you can't, if you're going to come back in, if we have baseball in 2022, if you're going to come back and try and be successful, which, by the way, this team should at least be competitive, I would hope, next season, you can't throw him out there at first base on a daily basis, given the last 2 years. And I'm not going to excuse 2020. It was still a 60-game sample size. And then into the playoffs, that was largely a bust. So I'm sorry, I can't just be like, well, 2020 does not count. Yes, it does. And if you put 2020 on 2021, it becomes even more concerning. But I actually, and this is the worst place to be in my opinion, when it comes to an athlete, I actually feel bad for him. Yeah. I'm past the point of, oh, he sucks, he's not good. I now almost cover my eyes during his at-bats, because it's so tough to watch a guy who is that lost. I feel compassion for him, and that's about as condescending as you can possibly be towards a guy who plays a sport.
The four players. So you and I have been doing a show for 7 years, and I did 4 years daily show with Patrick Royce and Mackey. So it's 11 years just blabbing daily about Minnesota sports. And the four players that I have criticized the most and have gotten the most blowback from fans while criticizing them, like you're being unfair, or you're wrong, or you got to give a guy a chance. He's still young, or whatever it is, right? Kirk Cousins is on that list for sure. And the jury's still out on that. Jury's still out. We'll see. He's in his prime. He's got an upgraded offensive line. We'll see. Mm-hmm. Andrew Wiggins, Delman Young, way back in the day, like 10 years ago, and Miguel Sano. Like, people like, you're wrong, you're being too hard, and it's like, I don't know, watch the games. Like, are we? And not to mention, Andrew Wiggins was a max player. Okay, he was a max player. He's going to be able to feed generations of kids and grandkids. He's going to be fine in life. He can take a couple of bloviating idiots on microphones, wondering and poking at him and asking, "What's the deal, dude? You gonna play better?" Mm-hmm. Delman Young was the number 1 overall pick. The Twins traded their best pitching prospect, who also was kind of a bust, in Matt Garza for him, and he put together the one season that he was a shining example in 2010. And it's like, where are you? Can we get it again? Right? Can we do, instead of going to the bars every night, like, can we hone in on our craft a little bit here? And then with Sano, I think he's put in a lot more work the last couple of years, but obviously the output has not shown up on the field. So I don't know.
So what's the cause, though, of fans to eventually put player before team? This is what confuses me. Like, if you're a Twins fan,
you want the Twins to win.
Why are you defending? And why are you defending? But why are you defending one guy?
It's super weird.
It doesn't make sense. You're a Twins fan. Like your business card would say Twins fan, not Sano Daily.
It's the same thing with the Wild and Zach Parise this playoff season. Oh, wasn't it so great seeing Zach score a goal? There's like 6 things I want to see before Zach Parise tips a slap shot on the power play coming back from being scratched for 3 weeks. I want to see this team win. I want to see Kaprizov show up. I want to see Fiala show up. I want to see if Cam Talbot's legit. I don't give a bleep that Zach Parise is scoring a power play goal and he's coming back from a scratch. I care about the team's success, not what Zach's doing in a feel-good story. That is come on, get out of here with
Well,
that
unless
BS.
Zach is deemed to be able to help the team, right? Like, but you're saying the team that you care about the team over a player, and sometimes we get it backwards here. It is weird.
It's weird.
Yeah. So,
But
I don't
like,
know.
is it trying to justify that the player's going to be okay because he's going to save the team? Like, I'm trying to go through what the thought process is. Like, I feel like Vikings fans defend Cousins because the Vikings signed him to a huge contract and said that he could win a Super Bowl, and fans are like, well, you'll see, he will. And it's like, I don't think so, folks. But I'm trying to work this backwards as far as why there is a faction, and it's a faction. It's not the whole thing. It's not even close. Mm-hmm. But why there is a faction of each fan base that falls in love with certain players and then begins to defend that player way more than the team would. Like, do you if you had a drink with Falvey right now, do you think he'd be like, you guys are too hard on Miguel? He'd say, hell no.
I don't know. I
think he'd say, hell no. I think privately he'd say, no, he's a major disappointment. We'd like to trade him.
Yeah, but sometimes I think you know how it works. I mean, you covered the Vikings beat for a long time. I covered the Twins beat. What happens is, especially when you're a beat writer, for instance, you're plugged in. Ideally, you'd be plugged in, right? So your job is to be plugged in as a beat writer. And oftentimes you'll get information off the record from front office people or other people with the team where you sort of get the green light on behalf of the team to criticize players in a certain way, right? If the team feels like
they might even give you information.
Right. If the team feels like, I'm trying to think of an example from the Twin, like when I covered the Twins beat, like when there was frustration, I can't think of a specific player, I guess, but hey, this guy has just not been putting in the work, or, this guy is kind of a pain in the ass behind the scenes. And so he's not getting enough criticism compared to this guy. Just thought you should know. Here's an anecdote from behind the scenes. Right. Mm-hmm. And it kind of feels to me like with Miguel in particular, yeah, there's like definitely fans on Twitter and, small sample size that are pointing out, dude, where's this guy been for I know that 2020 was weird, but like, where have you been, dude? This team needs you. Like, you're supposed to be a centerpiece and you make $10 million. Where are you? And I almost feel like there's a protective shell around him. Like, it's almost like the team, like, is there something that the team is trying to protect with him? Or like, why wouldn't the team at some point be like, what the hell is going on with Miguel? He's underperforming. He's not living up to the extension we gave him. Open season, criticize, right? It almost feels the opposite with the Twins, where they're trying to make excuses for him or whatever, and I don't understand what that dynamic.
But privately, they have to be beyond miffed, right? Frustrated. I mean, you've had him lose weight, then he gains weight, then he gets hot, then he doesn't get hot. The fact that he had to go to Cruise for a private tutorial to me also is a red flag of sorts. Like, why is that not the
I actually
hitting
like
coach?
That. I do.
No.
That.
But I'm saying, as far as the machinations behind the scenes, like, why is that not a coach with the Twins? I mean, why does that have to be Cruz? Like, what's going on here? Like, I think there is definitely more going on behind the scenes than we know, and I would be curious to know more. But do you know what all of this crystallizes, boys? This crystallizes to me one very clear thing. We used to think that the Twins' mistake or just flat out dumb bleeping move with Ortiz was terrible because Ortiz turned himself into a Hall of Fame player and a World Series champion in Boston. The curse of Ortiz is not that. The curse of Ortiz is our inability to give up on people that we should give up on because we invoke his name constantly.
Yeah.
That has left far more of a resounding to me feeling around this town. Look, Ortiz left. It was a bad, terrible, one of the worst mistakes in baseball history, including Babe Ruth. But when you think about now, it's 2021. That move was 2003. Is that right, Phil?
Yes.
When you think about 18 years later, the worst part is not the fact that he went to the Red Sox and had great success. The worst part is, to this day, anybody who shows potential, we always say, what if he's the next Ortiz? Yeah. Instead of saying the rational thing, which is, I don't think this is going to, or at the end, I don't think it's going to work. Right. Too bad.
Yeah, and Ortiz is such a special example too, because he was pretty darn good with the Twins. He just had some health. He had a wrist injury or something at one point, and then they just they were so cash strapped, even compared to now, right? It was before Target Field, and so they just let him walk. Babe Ruth garnered a $100,000 or so, whatever it was. I think it was a 6-figure payment from the Yankees in the early 1920s. Ortiz, who was the modern day Babe Ruth, basically, right? Playoff hero, home run champion, Hall of Famer. The Twins got nothing for him. So, yeah, it's your point on that is 100% correct. In that we do have a fear of, well, what if he leaves us? Well, I don't think we're talking about the same type of dude, Ortiz and Sano. Different type
trepidation,
of
though. Mm-hmm. Constant trepidation and fear. Oh my God, he might be. If he leaves, he's going to turn into a Hall of Fame player. You know what? In the case of Sano, I can guarantee you he won't.
Yep. So, by the way, talking Twins all season, it's been mostly depressing because they keep losing games. But presented by our friends at Dennis Kirk. Dennis Kirk, it's riding season. If you ride a Harley, it doesn't matter what you ride, Metro Cruiser, Indian, Sport Bike, you'll find what you need at DennisKirk.com. 160,000 parts and accessories in stock, clothing and helmets as well. If you just want to ride and get as far away from this underachieving Twins team as possible, well, Dennis Kirk will hook you up with all kinds of parts, accessories. Order by 8 p.m. They ship the same day, and shipping is free for orders over $89. When the open road calls, head to DennisKirk.com. All right, boys, every single Thursday, Declan digs through a decade plus of Twitter archives. Old tweets exposed here. What do you got this week, Declan?
Oh, we got a good collection. Actually, we have a couple Zolgad tweets that correlate with one another. So Judd, I have to expose you twice. I also ended up, I have a Facebook status today that was tweeted out, or posted, I should say, 9 years ago that I saw at the last minute that I will also be bringing to the table.
Nice.
But we'll start with Judd. A overall NHL observation from Mr. Judd Zolgad on April 30th, 2016. Observation from my barstool at Bunnies. The Maple Leafs will be the NHL's version of the Cubs in 2 years. A good teardown. Now, some of that teardown happened to a degree, and they built it back up. Yep. They've had insanely good teams, and they're basically have become the Minnesota Twins of the NHL. They haven't won a playoff series since 2003. They choke away leads.
They're sort of the Vikings.
They're just Minnesota sports of Canada.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
No, you got me.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good leader in the clubhouse there.
It is. I was going to say, I got bad news for myself.
And I am sorry. Then you doubled down a year later on April 23rd, 2017. The Maple Leafs haven't won a cup since '67, but won't be a surprise if that drought ends soon.
Now I really have a good lead.
Reminds me of what the Cubs have done.
Doubling down.
It did at the time. It did at the time, but I didn't remember. And clearly, I was too drunk at Bunnies in 2016 by 2017 to recall. Okay, I lead for sure.
Same take.
Like I'm not gonna. I own this.
Okay. All right. Well, here we have beat writer Phil here from September 18th, 2010. Wow. Jason Repko has a laser.
So he literally had one? Like a lightsaber?
So let me explain. Okay.
R2-D2?
2010. This is September 18th of 2010. So Twins were on the verge of clinching a division. They're coming up on 90 wins. Repko was a fourth fill-in outfielder. The vibes were good and positive with the 2010 Twins. So this is just me feeling those good positive
Phil's dancing.
vibes. Yep.
Dance, Phil, dance.
Man. Wow. I mean, he did have a pretty good arm, and nobody disputed his defensive abilities. So I still think Judge the leader in the clubhouse here, but that's just invoking the name Jason Repko.
Right, exactly. Jason Repko and laser being in the same tweet.
Get ready for the laser show. All right, this kind of coincides with Phil. On June 3rd, 2012, I put a Facebook status that just said Scott Diamond. So you must have shoved that day.
A mic drop Scott Diamond.
This is a close race now.
He must have shoved that day. I don't know what he did on June 3rd, 2012, but he must have did 8 innings of 10-hit, 1-run baseball.
I think I remember, honestly, because I covered that beat too. There was a day game in the summertime in which I think he threw a complete game, maybe shutout. Let me look it up real quick, okay?
Okay, June 3rd, 2012. So he must have Must have did something good, and he was 2012 was the year of Scott Diamond. That was what I think he won Pitcher of the Year at the Diamond Awards, and was pretty dang good.
The periods that really makes the status.
Doubling down.
Okay. I was close. He did, by the way. Okay, the start I was thinking about was on July 27th. He did throw a 9-inning complete game shutout in an 11-0 win over Cleveland, 98 pitches. But the start that you're referring to happened on June 3rd. It was against Cleveland, and it was 7 innings, 0 earned runs, 3 runs, but 7 innings, no earned runs, no walks, a couple of strikeouts, and the Twins won that
2
game
strikeouts.
6-3. And Diamond lowered his ERA on the season to 1.86. Scott
So it's probably
Diamond.
Scott Diamond.
Baby. Scott Diamond.
I gotta say, this is such a close race. I think the periods at the end of Scott and Diamond might give Declan the victory here.
It's so, it's basically exclamation points.
Yeah.
Like it is Scott Diamond.
It's as if he's been an established pitcher, and you're just like, yeah, Scott Diamond.
I understand
baby.
if I win, but yeah, that is awesome. That was a great race.
There it is.
That's
all
like
right.
a pennant
Old
race right there.
Tweets exposed here.
Good
Mackey
job,
and
Dex.
Judd, also presented by our friends at PXG. So I gotta imagine our friend Scott Diamond probably has a lot of extra time to golf these days. His last major league appearance came about 5 or 6 years ago, somewhere in there. So we'd recommend those PXG Gen 4 clubs, which are the best performing clubs PXG has ever made. You can stop by PXG Minneapolis in Southdale Center, check them out. Check out the spring and summer apparel that has arrived in store, and find out more at pxg.com/Minneapolis. So tomorrow on the show, we're going to do a couple fun things. Under Siege, Action Movie Rewind, a Steven Seagal classic, a Mount Rushmore of Steven Seagal movie. And the 2 wrestling nerds in the house here, Declan and I, are going to talk to Natalya, WWE superstar and maybe even future Hall of Famer Natalya on the show. So a lot of fun stuff tomorrow. And that's a wrap on this therapeutic episode of Mackey and Judd. Don't forget, we have daily Vikings conversations on Purple Daily, and we have a brand new Score North app with all kinds of new features on it, which we'll talk more about. But if you don't already have the Score North app, check it out,
nice.
download it. It's free.
I like it a lot.
It's even Judd approved. So
Yeah.
check it out.
Old man approved.
Yep. See you guys.